Hi, it's Tom from Digital Foundry.
And it's Rich here.
Right, this is Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. It's been a PS4 exclusive until now, a game that really impressed with its physically based lighting, and now finally we have it on PC. This is running on CryEngine 3, of course, which has a long and interesting history on PC in its own right, with the likes of Crysis and more recently Rise and Evolve. And it's always really pushed the latest GPUs, so we wondered how the GTX 970 and R9 390 held up here. We're getting the numbers narrowed down to 40 FPS at the start, but then it kind of branches out as you go into the village itself.
Yeah, it's quite interesting here how the GTX 970 actually starts to take point here, and we actually had a bit of a bet before we did the analysis which one comes up ahead, and I actually had my money on AMD because the driver run that they've had recently, we've just seen some fantastic results pushing way ahead of the 970 on titles like Quantum Break, Far Cry Primal, and smaller boosts on the likes of The Division, and also Rise. Dimly recall that actually running better on AMD hardware. So from my perspective, I thought it was a slam dunker, but the results show pretty much the opposite.
To put the stats into perspective, we took the average from across this test, and on the 970 we have 52.6 frames per second on average, and the R9 390 has 47.7 on average.
Okay, so that's, not a massive gulf, but still, very useful to have that extra performance.
Bear in mind, we can't get to 60 FPS on either, and this is running on very high settings at 1080p.
So is this everything on very high?
Yeah, that's everything, and that includes the object detail setting, which the Chinese room, the developer, says is the real killer on performance. So if we drop that down, it can help frame rates, but as you'll see here, it really isn't going to do a whole lot for getting it to run at a perfect 60. If we run everything from low, medium, high and very high on the GTX 970, we're getting decent frame rates at the start, but
seems to be sort of like a variance of between 7 to maybe 11, 12 FPS between high and very high there.
Yeah, that's right. And actually, if we're looking for a 60 FPS lock, we can't drop under that number, and it does, to put it bluntly. It will drop at below the 60 FPS threshold, which means we kind of have to resort to a 30 FPS cap if you're using this card, or perhaps bump up the clocks on MSI Afterburner or something like that.
Well, I don't think that overclocking is, well, obviously it's going to improve your performance, but I don't think it's going to be a revelatory game changer unless you actually are going to be doing some settings tweaking as well. And we actually ran this on the Titan X and couldn't get 1080p 60 on that on very high settings. We actually had to knock down that object detail setting to get that lock, didn't we?
Yeah, and unfortunately the in-game 30 FPS cap that they've given us doesn't quite solve the issue if you want a kind of even performance from the game.
Yeah, so we're looking at that now, and it looks like we're getting the odd spike above and below that 33 millisecond lock on the frame time there, but it's better than some of the frame pacing issues we've seen on some titles like Quantum Break, and this doesn't actually look that bad, just the occasional bit of stutter that's coming in, but it does kind of highlight to me that developers don't seem to have access to the ability to actually do proper frame pacing on PC. So for example, Need for Speed, when we highlighted the issue to Ghost Games, they patched it on console, but PC remained pretty much the same. And I'm not sure whether they have access to that at all, so it may well be a driver level thing. You can actually enforce that on Nvidia, but AMD, not so sure.
Just to confirm, it does work pretty well with the Nvidia. I tried it myself a bit earlier. Anyway, that about wraps it up. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like or subscribe below, and until next time, thanks for watching.